Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. This cautionary tale of unchecked power, betrayal, breach of public trust, backroom secrets, and whispers of corruption has the entire nation waiting to see what's next for self-proclaimed Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Although Mayor Henyard appears unbothered by the public chatter, several mayors have faced similar scandals and found themselves on the wrong side of the law. And they tell a very different story, one of prison time, restitution, humiliation, and regret. And a few whose crimes of dishonesty were far less severe than what Mayor Henyard is being accused of. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. My goal is to get to 5K within the next few weeks, so please like, share the video, and back to the story. So it's important to note, the best way to determine what the probability is for Mayor Henyard and her allegation and the allegations against her is to defer to prior crimes, similar crimes, look at some case law, cases that made it to the Supreme Court. All of those are going to tell you what is the probability that Mayor Henyard will beat these charges. Now, I have about 5 scenarios of mayors with very, very similar crimes that aligns itself with what Mayor Henyard is being accused of, and none of them escaped unscathed. All went to prison except one, I believe. She received probation. Most of their crimes were very similar to what Mayor Henyard is being accused of, allegedly, right? Some of them really not even as severe as what she's being accused of. So I have about 4 or 5 of them, and I'm going to let you listen and you be the judge as to if you believe she's going to beat these charges. And when I say charges, guys, I know she has not been formally charged of anything. I'm looking at the probability that after this extensive investigations by the feds, there will likely be some serious charges. And again, we say that because we can defer to case law, prior convictions of others in public office, and of course, cases that's made its way to the Supreme Court. Remember Sheila Dixon? She was the former Baltimore mayor back in 2010-ish, I believe. But more than a decade after being convicted of embezzling, get this, donated gift cards. Ms. Dixon recently announced that she's running for office again. Now, Sheila Dixon, who resigned back in 2010 as a plea agreement in the corruption case, apologized for her past aggressions and then announced her candidacy for city mayor in 2024. Now, this marks her 3rd bid for mayor, following 2 unsuccessful attempts since her own tenure ended in the scandal. Now, imagine losing everything over what equals to a $500 gift card that was intended to be used for the poor residents. Now, this ranks right up there with entitled and just downright stupid. And up next, former Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh. Catherine was sentenced to 3 years in prison for fraud, conspiracy, and then she was ordered to pay restitution, get this, of about $600,000. Now, according to her plea agreement, Pugh owned what is called Healthy Holly, LLC. It was a company formed in Maryland back in 2011 and used to publish and sell children's books. And she had actually written the books, right? Pugh also owned Catherine E. Prue and Company Incorporated, a marketing and public relations consulting company. Now, we won't get into Mr. Keith Freeman's similar LLC's debacle on this video, but we will definitely double back on him coming up soon. But for the sake of this comparison, the Fed said that 4 Healthy Holly books were published, with each book listing Catherine Pugh as the author. The vast majority of the books published by Healthy Holly were marketed and sold directly to nonprofit organizations and foundations, many of whom did business or attempted to do business with Maryland and Baltimore city governments. So you might be wondering, okay, so what's wrong with that? She wrote some books, legally published them, and then sold them for a profit. Yes, that's correct, except the sale of the books constitute fraud for many reasons, but specifically double selling the books and accepting payments for the books that were never delivered, not to mention using her public influence to facilitate these transactions, among other misdeeds. Now, we don't even have time to outline the straw donations, which they turn into untraceable cash. Now, just a piece of intel. Y'all remember the checks that the trustees alleged was written to cash, but never got an explanation from Mayor Henyard? Exactly. So you see where I'm going. And everyone remembers this one. The lovely Mr. Kwame Kilpatrick, charged with perjury, obstruction of justice, mail fraud, wire fraud, racketeering. Yes, Kilpatrick was the youngest mayor in Detroit history at only 31 years old. And 2 years later, the former deputy chief of the Detroit Police Department and a former Kilpatrick bodyguard, they filed a lawsuit alleging that they had been fired for investigating, get this, for investigating an affair between Kilpatrick and the chief of staff, Christine Baddie. Now, upon the discovery of the text messages confirming the affair, Kilpatrick was convicted of perjury and obstruction of justice and resigned shortly after that. Now, Mr. Kilpatrick's misdoings were way broader than what I've outlined, but check out the corruption cover-up by termination. Now, I know that sounds familiar because that is what the alleged victim in this case accused Mayor Henyard of, was wrongful termination or retaliation. After they were fired for investigating what they say was an affair between Kilpatrick and the chief of staff, they were given the axe. So Kilpatrick's first term as a mayor, it was a mess. It was marred by accusations of misuse of city funds, on personal extravagance. Nonetheless, he was re-elected in 2005, and then Detroit's financial footing continued to erode during his second term. Now, Mayor Henyard appears to be footloose and fancy-free. She doesn't appear to be thinking that she's getting ready to be on the chopping block anytime soon. At least that's kind of what she's saying, and that is how she's presenting herself to the world. Whether that's a facade or not, I don't know. But I will tell you that Mayor Henyard will have to be a magician to emerge from these FBI investigations unscathed. And as of the date of this video, Mayor Henyard has claimed that she is innocent. However, she does refuse to hand over receipts. Now, the FBI probe is taking a deep dive into broad implications that may convict Mayor Henyard, including some of those closest to her in public office. And remember that the feds don't care about you being a mother or whatever. And if you do the crime, they will make sure you do the time. All I'm saying is that the crimes that Mayor Henyard is being accused of mirrors closely the crimes of dishonesty that has sent all of these people we've mentioned so far to prison. So here's another one. Do you guys remember former Mayor Jerry Genova's fall from grace? He was a rising political star who was convicted of widespread corruption and sentenced to 5 years in prison by a federal judge who lamented, check this out, "You could have been great, but it just didn't happen." Federal judges have a reputation for being no nonsense and merciless, okay? That's just what I have noticed. One of our subscribers left a comment on one of the videos for Mayor Henyard saying, well, you know, it sounds like you're taking up for Mayor Henyard. It sounds like you're trying to make excuses for her. No, actually, I'm not trying to make excuses for her. But until due process has taken place, you know, she's basically innocent until proven guilty. Now, in my gut, do I think she's innocent? Absolutely not. I absolutely do not think she's innocent. But she is entitled to due process. And if I was in that position, I would actually want, due process to take place before I'm found guilty. So we're not reporting the news because we want to see people destroyed and lose everything. We're reporting the news so that we can disclose what's going on in these public offices. And if it's corruption, then we'll call it corruption. And if it's not, then we won't. In this particular case, it seems like everyone around Mayor Henyard has issues, from her quote unquote boyfriend, who they say is married, I don't know, to her senior administrator, the police chief. And it is not good when everyone around you has similar issues and people have similar allegations about your entire core group of leaders. And you know what they say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Now here's another one. Former Trenton Mayor Tony Mack. And he was sentenced to 58 months in prison after being convicted on all 6 federal extortion, bribery, mail, and wire fraud. He even dragged his brother, Raphael Mack, into the mess. And like his brother, he was also convicted on all 3 charges, sentenced to 30 months in prison. And the Mack boys were charged in connection with a scheme to accept $119,000 in bribes in exchange for some official actions and influences that, he would have on certain business transactions. So instead of providing transparent government to the citizens of Trenton, the Mack boys allowed themselves to succumb to self-interest, greed through unsavory and underworld of secret meetings. Okay, guys, I saved this one for last. Former Mayor Joey Torres, sentenced to conspiracy to commit official misconduct, check this out, for having employees with the Department of Public Works to perform work for the mayor and his family members while bilking the city out of overtime. Remember that? With the police officers on her personal detail, authorizing over 300 hours of overtime per pay period. As a part of his plea deal, Torres was required to forfeit his position as mayor, and he served, I believe, 5 years in prison. And of course, there are many, many others, and it's no secret that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you have to ask yourself, will Mayor Tiffany Henyard escape these charges? Well, first of all, we don't even know what most of the charges are. It's still a behind the scenes situation. They served the subpoena, so we don't even know what the charges are, what they will be, or even if there will be charges. At this point, I don't believe the FBI has shown their hand. But we know that the trustees have accused her of, writing checks out for cash, setting up a fake charity, wrongful termination, refusal to submit financial report, using credit card purchases for elaborate purchases, not being supported by appropriate receipts, just to name a few. So as quiet as it's kept, the word on the street is that some of the mayor's political supporters have unfollowed her on social media and has begun to distance themselves from her. Now that's just a bit of tea for what it's worth. You guys know how it works when it comes down to if that person is going to put their neck out, put themselves on the line to save you. No, they won't. And the old saying, my name is Bennett and I ain't in it. That's exactly what people do. It's human nature, because no one's going down for something that they didn't do. And certainly people are not interested in being the sacrificial lamb. And not to mention, if you look at the list that we just reviewed, some of those people's, misdoings were not as severe as what Mayor Henyard is being accused of. Especially, you take a $500 gift card and you ruin your entire career. Now, that wasn't all she took, but I think they reduced it down to that particular one because maybe she had not actually used the others. But it came down to what's equivalent to $500 gift card. So at the end of the day, do I think it's possible for Mayor Henyard to beat all these charges, walk away? Why does it driven snow? Absolutely not. I don't see a scenario where that is going to happen. The feds are taking too long. They're digging too deep. Their investigation is too broad for her to walk away and just completely be exonerated from any wrongdoing. I don't think so. Mayor Henyard got like an attitude problem. Okay, I'm telling you, I know she is probably having to fight her way through all of these allegations. People are very, very angry. They're raising their voices, and basically, letting her know they want her out in no uncertain terms. I've watched many of those meetings, and they did not mince words. They want her gone. And the dangerous part about all of this is when people really want you out, they have no mercy, and they will cooperate with the feds, and they will do whatever they can to get you out of that position, because the consensus is that she is basically bankrupting the village of Dalton and Thornton Township, and those deficiencies are going to be handed over and passed down to the taxpayers, and they're not happy about it, right? And going to Vegas and spending $30,000 plus on a trip, so I don't really know when all of this is going to unfold. No one knows that, but I promise you it is probably sooner than we think. So here's the thing. People must remember that the feds, just like your local police, they're all vying for a promotion and a better job, more money, and a lot of these convictions are tied into them getting promoted and getting recognized. So this is not just a situation where they're going to just let you off the hook, unless it's in their best interest, right? Unless you're rolling on someone else, they may give you a break. But if any of the allegations that the trustees are alleging, now we're not even just talking about what the trustees are alleging, like with the professional white collar crimes, then there's other crimes that people are alleging that she retaliated against them outside of the office, coming to people's homes, using her muscle, her police officers to detail this muscle, following people. The list goes on and on. So it seems like pure all-out corruption as far as I'm concerned, but of course we're on the outside looking in. But there's been enough information, and if you watch any of those meetings, Mayor Henyard got like an attitude problem. Okay, I'm telling you, I know she is probably having to fight her way through all of these allegations. People are very, very angry. They're raising their voices, and basically, letting her know they want her out. Now, remember, guys, I owe you a full video on Keith Freeman and his allegations of bankruptcy fraud and other dark secrets of corruption and breach of public trust. Now, those are all allegations now. So we are gathering receipts to bring the story all together. Yes, receipts is what we need, and receipts is what we'll get. So before we can effectively report any news on Keith Freeman or the ongoing investigation regarding Mayor Henyard and her administration, we need more receipts. So we're working on those, and we will get this story to you as soon as we have adequate information to support our claims. Thanks for tuning in to Southern Confidential, and for more on this developing story, y'all better stay tuned. And all things true crime, hit subscribe.